Caffeinated Cooper Show.
Yeah, I believe in you. I don't believe in lucky sevens. I'm not sure about Loch Ness, but I know I believe in angels. I believe in happiness.
Thank you so much, Justin Peters at Platinum Planet Records, for putting together that intro. They are fantastic. They're so loving, and they've actually added to our news this afternoon. So make sure that you stay tuned after this interview. At noon, we will do the news with VistaFront Partners and a financial report and talk about financial report of this past week. Man, was it a roller coaster, and what to expect going forward. So this morning, I have a tremendously dynamic, and I know she's going to make a lasting impression on you guest. She is, I mean, so fit. You would think that nothing has ever touched her life. She's been a fitness person from like age 9 all the way up to where she is now. And she actually has a really interesting story. She has some guidance for a transformational change in your life. So she's coming to the broadcast in just a moment. First up, I'd like to talk about our sponsor this morning, which is Red Bar. And I've actually been snacking on my Red Bar. I'm pulling up the information so that you can read all about it and write down the website. But don't go there yet, because we want you to stay tuned for the show. So at redbar.com, you can read up about this product. And they've been so generous and kind over the years. They've sent me, and I'm trying to work the lights here. So this is a Red Bar. And it is coined as Radiant Energy because it was designed to be your complete nutrition in one snack form. So it does have 200 calories for the whole bar. Either that's going to be a heavy snack or it's going to be a small meal. You know what I'm saying? So the people that created it, and I was actually able to have an interview with them when they came on as a sponsor in season 2. They said, you know what? We're triathletes. We're cyclists, long distance cyclists, and we needed something that wasn't full of preservatives and just full of junk. We wanted real food and real nutrition in a snack size that was sustainable, and it was, able to go into packaging just like this so that you can pop it into maybe your back pocket if you're cycling, or into a gym bag or wherever you may be. So this is a new generation of protein bars. It's delivering low sugar, high fiber, energy from handcrafted recipes that are truly delicious. Plant-based nutrition. So this is gluten, soy, dairy, and GMO free. That is huge. I have to tell you, when I send my husband to the grocery store and I'm like, okay, we need some bread, I'm so specific with him because I am irritated, guys. Everything has soy. I don't want my husband or my boys ingesting too much soy because then I say it again and again, it metabolizes as estrogen. That will cause massive problems for our boys and our men. So I'm huge about making sure that it's gluten-free is wonderful. My daughter has gluten allergy, so she can have these bars. Soy-free, definitely. Dairy, I've gotten off of dairy personally. And GMO-free, that's wonderful. 10 grams of protein, 2 to 5 grams of sugar. So it depends on what flavor. Like this one, I would say the mint chocolate probably has a little bit more sugar than some of the other flavors, but it's seriously yummy. They have chocolate that tastes like a moist chocolate brownie. They have oatmeal, peanut butter, mint chocolate, salted caramel, and more. So go over to redbar.com. But let me tell you, I was at my local Publix and they now carry Red Bar. So you can get it at your local Publix in your southeast area of the United States. We do have Publix grocery stores and on Amazon. So go to reddbar.com today. And I believe they're still offering their 15% off of your order, any order of any of their products. So make sure that you go check them out. All right, next up, I would like to talk about our guest. So let me introduce her for a moment. Sherry is a master in the field of fitness, nutrition, and motivation to keep the plan working for you. With reality-based nutrition, 20-minute workouts, Who can't do a 20-minute workout? When I read 20-minute workouts, and I'm a 2-hour in the gym girl because I get in there and it's like my toy box. I just get lost. 20 minutes. Huh. And motivation to get anyone on track, even those of us with injuries and recovering from surgeries, will gain the benefits of working with Sherry and her easy to follow meal plans and workouts. She is quoted to say, and this is on SherryShaban.com, I believe we all have a story. We all have an obstacle standing in our way of our health and fitness, whether it be an injury, a condition, or struggle with weight loss. We can choose for our story to define us, to weigh us down, to block us from achieving our greatest self, or we can choose instead to rewrite our story and empower our deepest transformation. And again, that's on SherryShaban.com. Without any further ado, I'd love to welcome Sherry Shaban. Sherry, how are you this morning?
I'm well. How are you, Elizabeth? I'm so happy to be here.
I am doing so well, and I'm really, really excited to get into a conversation with you. I want to make sure I'm turning my volume up so everybody can hear you. So tell me, as I said while I was introducing you, if anyone was to Google you or go on to SherryShaban.com, you are in unbelievable shape. I would assume, and you never want to, judge a book by its cover, right? But I would assume from your pictures and your promotional videos that you've always looked like that. And you've just been a love of fitness since you were a child. Is that true?
That is true. Yes.
Okay. And so I've also seen some videos about how you have had some obstacles and struggles in the way of maintaining your physical presence. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, for sure. And I want to start off by saying that what you do see, the appearance generally that we do see, is not always what is the experience of the person. And when I started to really work on my health and fitness, I wasn't even focused on the physical appearance. I wasn't choosing things because I wanted to create a physical change in my body, but I was actually trying to step into that identity of who I always recognized myself to be. As a kid, I was always into health and fitness. I was a competitive swimmer. I did track and field. I placed first in almost everything. And that's just how I always experienced myself. At school, I had to be the girl who did the most push-ups. I had to outrun the boys. And so this was sort of my upbringing. And when I was 16, I was hit by a car. And as a result to that, I damaged my spine. I had my first back surgery when I was 17 years old. I remember after the car accident, I'd come back to basketball practice, and I realized that there was this pain in my butt. It actually started in my right glute, and it was just not going away. In fact, it was getting worse and worse. And over the span of a few months, it was going down my leg. I couldn't shower on my own. I couldn't walk for more than a few minutes. And so I had my first back surgery. And at that point, I was told that I'm not allowed to play sports anymore, that it's probably likely that if I do become pregnant, I might injure my back further, and that all I was allowed to do going forward was some light walking on the treadmill. And so I listened because that's what the doctor said. I started taking things like Celebrex. And again, at that point, I'm 17 years old. I'm taking these massive painkillers to be able to get through my day. And in my early 20s, after a few years of spending time in the wrong environment, hanging out with a crowd that was not, the jock crowd, and picking up habits that my parents would not approve of, I just decided that I needed to make a change. I was very, very unattached with my identity. And so I started to walk into the gym. I started to just copy people around me. I had no idea what I was doing at that time. And I was actually studying biochemistry. And so this was not my field of expertise whatsoever. But after a few months of doing that, I realized that my back pain was a lot less, and I could now come off of that pain medication. And so now I wanted more. So I bought myself a treadmill. I started running 5 minutes at a time. I slowly built up to an hour, and I was able to run for an hour outside, again, without pain and without having to rely on these pain medications. So then that really triggered the cascade of events that really led me to become the coach I am today. And I was just obsessed with knowledge. It had nothing to do with how I wanted to look, but everything to do with how I wanted to feel. And really just overcoming that limiting belief that I'm not allowed to do anything anymore, because if I do, then it could create more injuries. So I dropped out of biochemistry. I started little personal training certifications at the local YMCA, and then
Hi, I'm Sherry Shaban.
I'm sorry.
and got into a brand new program. So I started exercise science. I started learning athletic therapy. I wanted to know everything there was about pain, about managing injuries, about overcoming injuries. And that just continued to grow until I became an osteopath. I did open a gym in 2012, and that's actually opening that gym led to my second back surgery. And it was really just a moment in my life where I was under a lot of stress. I was not listening to my body. All the signs to stop and slow down were there. But of course, I didn't. Elizabeth, I had a deadline. I had to open my gym at a certain time. And so I ended up injuring my back again. And this time I was rushed. I was rushed into the hospital on a Wednesday and had my surgery on Friday. I was just a couple of millimeters away from paralysis and living with cauda equina for the rest of my life. And so after that, that was really starting from scratch again. It was really building myself back up, learning how to manage that pain and all the physical limitations. And I found myself having just opened a gym, unable to demonstrate a single exercise. I could not demonstrate a squat. I could not help anyone around me. And again, it comes back to that, either accepting that story and my condition as it was, or finding that I can rewrite my story in any way. And maybe that does require me to have some limitations, or maybe that does require me to have to tread slowly sometimes when it comes to certain things, and maybe even having to give up certain movements that just don't serve me. And so it's been a long journey. And my message to my athletes is that we all have something. We all have something that blocks us from achieving that goal that we want, or that life that we deserve to live, that epic life that we've always envisioned. And so it's overcoming that obstacle that requires not only exercise and a shift in nutrition, but also, more importantly, a shift in mindset, a shift in how we view ourselves, because we are our self-image, and all of our habits throughout our day reflect that self-image.
Absolutely. My goodness. So, having to be rushed into emergency surgery, that's seriously heavy on the psyche. Did it ever scare you to get back into some of your routine, to push yourself to get some of the motion and the movements that possibly the doctors at the time were saying, no, don't do it?
Yeah, so just having gone through it the first time, there was this part of me that was constantly reminding me, remember the doctor said you couldn't do this, but look what you ended up doing, right? And yeah, it took some time and it took some patience, and you had to overcome some of the limiting beliefs. You had to overcome through that pain that you were experiencing. So there was that part of me. But I will be honest, there was the other part of me too that was ready to just shift into something else. And so I came out of that surgery really unable to bend forward 20 degrees. So how could I deadlift? How could I do some of these things? I was in constant pain again. And so I started to embrace yoga. And for me, for us to really feel unstuck, we have to find something that excites us, something that gives us that hope. And it may look a little bit different. I never considered myself a yogi. And in fact, yoga was very new to me at that time, but I was ready to try something else. And so we have to be open to that and not completely give up the hope that we could reverse whatever we're going through, or that we could achieve that which we want, but instead just being more flexible and adaptable to the situation, and never putting ourselves in that place of hopelessness. Yeah. As soon as we embrace that feeling of hopelessness, then that's really where we block off all possibilities of success.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My goodness. Well, I have pulled up the video that is on your website, and I found it to be so impactful, so empowering to many people that are struggling. And, I've noticed in our communities, everybody is the same as far as the internal struggle. People want to just, they realize, okay, I put on 10 pounds. No, I don't like it. No, I don't feel good, but I'm just going to pretend I'm good. I'm going to go get a larger size pants. I'm going to, maybe wear a couple more layers and try to hide it. Like, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. But you really would love that transformational moment. And I feel that this video will inspire so many. Would you mind telling us a little bit about the development of your website? And then we'll go ahead and show the video.
Sure. So the website has options for coaching. It has a link to my podcast. I think actually the video that we're talking about is on the first page, because that's going to be, I think, a different video that you're sharing. That's more around my programs.
Okay.
So with my website shares a little bit about me, a little bit about what I do, some of the stories that I want to share around clients and things like that. But essentially, my philosophy around creating that shift in our health and fitness really starts with mindset. It starts with shifting into a new identity, an identity where we can see ourselves doing all of these things that we want to do. And then after that, through nutrition support and working on certain exercises, we're able to get into that space. And my workouts are very short and intense. It's my philosophy. They're full body workouts. They're compound movements. And, we're all busy. We don't have 2 hours. I know you mentioned 2 hours, Elizabeth, that you love to spend 2 hours in the gym. There was a time where I had the luxury to do that. But the reality of for most of us is that we don't have those 20 hours a week to spend in the gym. We really have a short amount of time throughout the day, and 20 minutes is something that becomes non-negotiable.
Right. Absolutely. I was working through a lot of things in my life at that point in time. My husband and I had separated, but we were still living together. So lots and lots of stress, lots of little guys at home at the time. And that lasted for 8 years. And so I would try to, I was working out, but during my breathing moments, the couple of seconds really in between, the minute in between, I'd work. And now, I'm in a different time in my life. I've had to come out of the gym to recover, and really working at home is best for me. So I still do my workouts here at home, and I'm realizing, my goodness, 2 hours a day. Now that I've gotten away from it, I'm like, I don't have 2 hours a day. So
right.
Minutes is like savory. I cannot wait to get started. So now I did find the video, and I'm on your website right now. So guide me just a little bit, if you will.
Sure.
So where should I go to find the video that you would like to show this morning?
On the About page.
Okay. All right. And this is SherryShaban.com.
Growing up, I was that girl that always had to beat the boys in class. I was the girl that always had to be the fastest in gym class. The girl that always had to do the most push-ups. That's how I identified myself. I had back surgery when I was 16, and I was told I could never play sports again. I lost my sense of identity. I wanted myself back. I wanted my identity back. So I walked into the gym. My back was still bothering me a lot, but I stuck with it. And after a few weeks, I had built so much strength that the back pain was almost gone. So I went back to school and started another bachelor's degree in exercise science. I wanted to help people make a difference. I opened my first gym in 2012. And when I opened my second gym, 6 months later, I started to feel my back pain again. I was taken to the hospital, and they had said to me that I was just millimeters away from cauda equina syndrome. I was millimeters away from paralysis. I had surgery on my back for the second time. I was devastated. I had just put together this gym, and I couldn't help anyone. I couldn't even demonstrate a single squat. I was so embarrassed. One day I walked in the gym, and I remember watching this client of mine back squatting a really, really heavy weight. I was inspired. She inspired me. So I came back and I said, I'm going to start over again. I have to redefine my fitness. Today, I'm the owner of CrossFit El Bazard. I am a mother of 2 awesome girls, and I am in the best shape of my life. So you watching this You believing that there is an obstacle, whether it's an injury or whether it's a struggle with weight loss. I want you to know that no matter what, and no matter where you're coming from, and no matter what injury you have or what condition you have, you can overcome anything you put your mind to. If there is a will and there is a desire to improve, there's always a way. And I want to help you get there.
Wow. Sherry, you are saving people. Do you realize that?
I don't see it that way. I want to share the tools, and I really believe that we are all capable of saving ourselves. And it's really up to us to do the work. And it really just starts with that desire, that not wanting to be here, not feeling like I'm stuck and there are no possibilities. And we all have this innate power within us to become that person. And I've interviewed so many people on my podcast, people who were told that they would never walk again. People were told that, well, you have MS now, and this is going to be something that's going to continue to impact you, and you'll just see yourself deteriorate over time. And we're able to get up and walk out of their wheelchairs. So we all have this ability within us. I feel that the greatest block for us is really our mindset. It's our belief system. And I think we've all heard this quote before. If we think we can't, we really can't. So it's finding that glimmer of I can, and then build up on that. And then my next step of I can, and build up on that, and then recognize my wins and celebrate my wins.
Yeah.
So I continue to build on that.
Oh my goodness. Powerful. So powerful. I do want to show the next video in just a moment. I'd love to touch on your podcast. So your podcast is called Fall in Love with Fitness. When did you start the podcast?
This was started in the pandemic. So it's been a dream of mine to have this podcast that would inspire people to fall in love with fitness and not have fitness be this place of punishment, that I have to punish myself through diet to get my results. I have to punish myself through exercise to get my results, but instead to really hear other people's inspiring stories around the different blocks and to plant that seed of hope. So I launched it really a few months into the pandemic, and I've had really amazing guests on so far, and I'm very excited for what's coming up this year as well on it. We've got a lot of really awesome guests lined up. So yeah.
So I'd love to ask you, I've spoken to many of the trainers in several different gyms over the years, and I find it interesting how much of an impact our nutrition has on our fitness. Can you tell me in your words, what do you think about the nutrition versus the fitness? Because I would say in just the basic world, it's sort of like everybody thinks, oh, I'll go for a 10-mile run every day. I'll work out 3 hours a day and I'm going to be ripped. No, you're not. Like, not if you're not eating the right nutrition, right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Nutrition. I think we've heard that it's 70 or 80% of our results, right? And that's the thing too with nutrition is oftentimes we're looking for this one size that fits all. Like there's this magic formula that I haven't heard about yet, or I'm still listening to, this talk about how carbs are bad, or this talk about how fats are bad. And there's a lot of confusion around it. So when it comes to nutrition, we don't want to really think about nutrition in terms of what that physical transformation will be should I start to change how I eat, but instead really focus on, well, what is my body doing with what I am eating? And now, it becomes confusing when you're hearing all these different resources around you, and the keto diet, the low carb diets, or counting your macros, or becoming vegan, all of these things. And so, when it comes to nutrition, I just want to say that for every single person, it will always be a little bit different. We have to listen to our body, and we have to feel whether or not something is working for us. Nutrition is not just about the physical transformation. Nutrition is also about gut health. It's about my sleep. It's about how I feel. However I eat impacts my mood as well. And so nutrition then also becomes a way that we can recover from training so that we do see the results that we want. And although all of these diets can be very confusing, what I would say is that they all kind of have one thing in common. And generally that one thing in common is to eat more of the whole foods and less of the processed foods. So for a person listening, wanting to make that very, very first step around their nutrition, I would suggest that really focus on eating more foods that are natural, foods that came from the land that man did not make. And then start to listen to your body. And whether that means removing meat or removing certain fats from your diet, that's going to be something that we want to play with a little bit and start to really discover what works best for us. But certainly there's a massive emphasis on nutrition when it comes to wanting to create that physical transformation.
I have a viewer here. Michael is saying, I eat 6 times a day, small meals, lots of protein. There's good fats and bad fats. Yes.
Yeah. So Michael, that's really great. And if that works for you and you've seen your transformation, then I would say if it's not broken, don't fix it. Right. So for some people, eating 6 times a day, that works for them. And for others, maybe intermittent fasting works for them. Intermittent fasting is not a diet. It's more of a structure or a pattern of eating. So again, it's about playing with all of these little sort of tricks and things that you've heard, working with someone maybe who can monitor your sleep, can monitor your energy levels, can look at a lot of different factors other than just how many calories that you're required to have in order to sustain life or to create that transformation.
Sure. So you mentioned something just a moment ago, gut health. That is not something that is mainstream quite yet as far as just general education to the masses. Would you mind taking us through a basic to a little bit more in-depth description of what is gut health and why does it matter?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, such a great question. So our gut, we don't often realize that it's our second brain. And we actually, as humans, cannot break down or digest our foods fully. In fact, we rely on the bacteria in our gut to be able to do that for us. So our gut is that last part of the digestive system. It's the colon where our waste is collected and where we would, evacuate our waste later, where we would eliminate. And this area is made of a single layer of cells. So in the single layer of cells, it's designed that way so that things can pass freely through it. But that single layer of cell, on one side, there is the waste that's collecting, but on the other side of that tube is our immune system. And so there is an intricate communication between the gut, the immune system, and the brain that is happening at all times. It's like our thermostat, constantly feedback from the brain and the gut telling us what's going on in the body. Is there something that we need to be worried about? Is there something that we need to fight? So there's that part of it. There's also the fact that the bacteria in the gut break down the majority of our food, and they live on fiber. That's their food. That's their fuel. There is also the majority of our serotonin. About 80% of our serotonin is released in the gut, and serotonin is that hormone of pleasure. Mm-hmm. The gut is responsible for activating certain vitamins, for activating certain hormones, for regulating estrogen metabolism. So there's a lot that we depend on coming from these bacteria. But our gut also impacts our mood. So when there's inflammation going on in the gut because we ate something that didn't serve us, we ate a lot of processed foods, there's inflammation in that little thin single cell lining, it impacts our mood, right? And remember, we also spoke about serotonin being one of those hormones that are released in the gut. Mm-hmm. So there's this constant communication between the gut and the brain in terms of mood, in terms of, again, the regulation and sort of what's going on in the body. And so all this to say is, if my machinery is not supporting my progress, then there's no way that I can see that progress. If I'm in a constant state of inflammation and I'm eating a lot of foods that are creating inflammation in my body, well, I can work really hard in the gym and I can really count my calories and my macros, but I still don't see those results, right? And so what we want to do is really come to a place where we don't have inflammation going on in the gut. And then from there, start to build on those habits that create that physical transformation. Inflammation can happen from eating a lot of fast food, a lot of junk food, processed food that we spoke about, from taking non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, from drinking alcohol, for example, having a diet that's high in sugar. And even for some of us, we might react to certain foods compared to other people. For some people, lentils or beans could be something that creates inflammation. And for others, it could be something that they could digest well. So coming back to how do we work on nutrition? Well, we want to focus on gut health, right? If I make it, let's say my standard, my first step is to remove a lot of these inflammatory foods, a lot of these processed foods, and then start to slowly introduce more whole foods. Well, now I want to pick up the signs of inflammation. That's bloating. That is watching my elimination, right? Am I blocked up, or do I have diarrhea? I talk about poop a lot, Elizabeth. So
That's okay.
definitely get into that a little bit more. But it's those signs that I want to be aware of. And we also see inflammation and swelling. We see inflammation with dis-ease. In fact, the majority of our chronic illnesses that we see, even Alzheimer's or cancer or diabetes, these are all diseases that arise from a state of inflammation.
I am blown away. That has been the best, most not heavy content. Like the way you communicate it, everybody across the board understands what you're saying. I'm totally blown away, especially by the point of what you just said, that non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs is bad for your gut health. It causes inflammation. It's designed to remove inflammation, is what we're told.
Right.
Wow. So we really have to be the gatekeeper of what enters into our mouth.
Yes.
And what would you say? I know when I'm in the grocery store, I try to stay out of the middle of the grocery store, because that's where all your not great things, overly processed products are. But when and if I have to walk down the cookie aisle, the one thing I'll look at, I'm like, oh, wow, that would be nice. And those are yummy and that's good. But I don't need it. Keep walking, Elizabeth. And I refuse to buy those things. What do you do? Where do you shop to keep yourself on track?
Yeah, so similar to you, I stay on the outskirts of the grocery store, and there's some services that I use that deliver, for example. And this could be a great option for some of us. I know that now a lot of the bigger grocery stores, you can order online, you can get things delivered. And I think maybe due to the pandemic, it's definitely gotten a lot easier to do so. But what's great about that is that when we are ordering online, we can really choose exactly what's on our list and we can just make it happen. But when we walk into the grocery store, we're sometimes distracted by all the labels everywhere, right? And that's the thing too, is we walk into the grocery store, my intention is to stay on the outskirts of the aisles, but I just saw this product that said it was low in cholesterol. And it also said it contains superfoods. And it also said that it was, really great for me because it had omega whatever's in them, right? And so the labels are drawing our attention. We don't realize that this health food is still a processed food, but it drew my attention. The broccoli didn't, because there's nothing written on the broccoli. Nobody's telling me what's inside the broccoli or that green apple. There's no label on that green apple, right? So we just have to be mindful of that. If it's a man-made food and it did not get plucked from a tree, it did not come off the land, it is likely a processed food, even though the claims are it's a health food. So really just it's mindfulness. It's shopping at the grocery store when you're not hungry. It's really committing with an intention to maybe pick up exactly what you need. And I'm a sweet tooth too. So my way around that is I make sure that I have all the whole foods to bake something with available in my pantry. And I don't want to bring home something that will constantly call to me, right? And so I noticed that if there's something in my freezer, if there's something in my pantry that is constantly calling to me, oh my God, I have to go have it. Like, right, our mental strength, our willpower is good for only a few days. And then at one point, we're going to have to break and grab it. So I try not to introduce that stuff into the home. I do have 2 kids and they've been on this sort of system for a while, so they're used to that. But instead, I will have rolled oats. I will have avocado. I'll have bananas on hand. I'll have flax seeds, whatever that can create a muffin or cookies. That's sort of my go-to when I'm looking for something sweet.
I have more of a relationship question for you because I think a lot of people must be in a fairly similar situation as what I am. I grew up with gardens and fresh foods and home baked breads. And, like you said, if we want something that is a little bit sweeter as a special treat, you bake it. You're making it with the ingredients that you know what's in it, and there's no extra preservatives because it's not needed. Now, what about the struggle between two spouses? You have one spouse that grew up in McDonald's, and you have another spouse that grew up more homegrown. That is my situation. So everybody, there's a little, intimate view of my life. So now I have children, and it has been a constant battle of he will take them to fast food and I do not. And they know not even to ask me because we're not going. But these kids get hooked on the burgers and the pizza and the French fries. And I'm like, how about a vegetable? And now they won't eat vegetables at all. So like I said, this is more of a relationship therapy question. But have you ever been asked, how do I get my partner on board?
Yeah, and this is a really important question because that's sort of true for most of us, right? If we're looking to create a shift in our health and fitness, our partner may or may not be on board, right? So I'll always come to that place of number one, auditing your environment, right? So we spoke about the importance of having a kitchen or a pantry that is void of things that will call to me, right? That's auditing my physical environment. That's making sure my physical environment supports me. But then there's also the social environment, and that's now where our relationships come in. So we need to have a talk with our spouse or our partner or our family and say, hey, we're doing this and this is our plan. And if we do want to have that burger, if we do want to have that treat, maybe it's on a Friday night, right? And so it's important to not be super extreme. I also find with kids to not be super extreme because I always fear that there would be a backfire later, right? And yes, my kids grow up in this environment where we don't buy these things from the grocery store. However, every now and then it is a Friday night pizza night, right? And that's okay because I don't want them to have this scarcity mindset around certain things, but instead feel that all food is sort of emotionally equal. I'm not good because I ate the salad and I'm not bad because I ate pizza, right? But instead it's all food. I do notice though, when I eat pizza, I'm bloated, maybe I'm constipated the next day, maybe I wake up swollen. So maybe that would be the reason why I would avoid that. But it does start with that conversation and making sure that everybody's sort of on the same page. And you know what? If people are not on the same page, then I have to own it. I have to remind myself that I'm on my journey. Mm-hmm. And so it's not my spouse's fault that I ate chips. It's not my spouse's fault that I did not exercise today. That's all on me. I have to take that responsibility and that ownership. So then I can start to make that choice that serves me. Right? If my spouse brings chips home and I had chips, it's not because he brought it home that I had chips. It's because I decided to have some. So the way to go about that is, number one, setting that intention, right? And having a very, very strong why. Here's why I want to do this. This is why this is important to me. It's so important to me that it's non-negotiable. I have to get to that point. And then I also need to have an alternative so I don't feel like I'm missing out. If everyone's having pizza, well, what can I have that is delicious, that is exciting to me, that also makes me feel like I'm participating?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I found so many things in my journey of being, that light gym rat. I wasn't a gym rat, in my opinion, because I didn't go back in the afternoon for my second 2-hour set. But in that lifestyle, when I was either cutting or I was building, I was leaning, I found myself finding things that were more meat appropriate, that maybe I'd throw a little pepperoni in there to get a little pizza taste. And I would eat that on a salad while the kids ate pizza to try to work it around. I do also think that so many couples, one person will decide to change their lifestyle and to have that transformation. And that's what I love that you offer. This isn't a diet. Diets, in my opinion, do not work. You have to have that transformation. This is for life. You are changing the way you eat. That is sustainable. It's not some crazy, we're going to cut everything out. You're only going to eat 2 crackers and you're going to drink 3 gallons of water a day. Like, no, don't do that to yourself, please. But change the way you eat forever. that is comfortable. It is good. You do want to eat it. And, I see so many couples that do struggle where one of them is ready to transform and the other one's not. And so then, how do you like manage yourself? Because now you're making something for the kids and you're making something for yourself and you're making something for somebody else that you live with. What would you say? And the video that I'd like to play next is all about your plan. So it's the 20-minute workout. It's a 28-day meal plan. How do you sell what you do is what I'm trying to ask.
That's interesting. I think it's really just offering people a very relaxed approach to health and fitness, where again, it's not a punishment for how they look, right? And I think for most of us, that's why we get into a diet, right? That doesn't work, to your point, is because we can't stand the way that we look. But instead, it's about sustainability. And so if I know that something can fit in my lifestyle because this meal plan that I'm following is actually very much catered around the foods that I enjoy, learning and empowering myself in the kitchen and around these choices, well, I will likely stick to it. And the same thing about training. If I were to start a training program and I'm a super busy mom or dad and driving around and I've got a career and I've got a mortgage to pay, I've got all these things going on, well, it's probably going to be pretty hard to pick up, 2 hours of training every single day to see my results. So sustainability is key. And I think that is one of the greatest things truly is just knowing that whatever I start now, if I can see myself doing it long term, then I'm going to keep it up. If I tell myself I'm never going to have pizza again, or I'm never going to eat brownies again, or whatever that is, that's not really realistic, right? Mm-hmm. And when we're looking at creating a balance, it's not about the absence of that food that doesn't serve us, but instead it's remembering that quantity is also really important. One slice of pizza is not like 8 slices of pizza, right? And so that's what we sort of want to focus on is sustainability.
So I have a question for you. And I noticed that in the world of women, especially women in my generation, we've long time ago, before real education was out there, in the 90s, we had the no fat, everything was no fat. And then we've sort of emerged to no carbs. Everything's no carbs, And it's so interesting what the markets have driven forward to sort of really, to a huge degree, misinform us and sell more product that unfortunately was highly processed. In the world of women, when I was younger, it was very popular just to do the starvation diet or to find women in the gym and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, I'm so busy. I have, a cup of coffee and something small for breakfast. And then my whole day goes through and I have dinner, at like 8 o'clock at night, but I'm not eating anything. My calories are way low compared to what my, caloric intake is supposed to be for the day. What am I doing wrong?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the things that we're doing wrong is like you said, is that restriction of calories. Our body, we're designed to not want to die, right? Our body's trying its hardest to not let us die. So if I right now require 1,500 calories to sustain life, right? That's my basal metabolic rate. That's to regulate my heartbeat, my blood pressure, my breathing, my temperature, all of these things, my digestion. Let's say I require 1,500 calories a day to do that. And now I've decided that I'm going to start to restrict my intake. I want to, lose a pound, maybe every week or so. So maybe I'm going to, scale down to 500 calories less every single day. Well, that might work well for the first few days. Probably the first 72 hours, my body's gonna be like, oh, we're in a deficit. Okay, let's start to use our stored fats. This is fine. But after 3 days, my body's going to start to worry that, oh my gosh, wait a minute, are we going into scarcity? Is this possible that if we continue this, that I might die because there's not going to be enough food? So what is the reaction? To slow down my metabolism. So my body will find a way to conserve energy and therefore not use 1,500 calories anymore to do all of these processes, but now that 1,000 calories, right? And so that's where most of us fall into that trap, is that maybe at first that sort of restriction diet might work, but at one point our metabolism slows down and we might actually find ourselves having less energy to do our activities, have less energy to train, feel like we're actually wanting to move a little bit less. And that's, again, our body conserving energy. So instead of doing that, what we want to do is get away from calorie in equals calorie out, because it's not really true. There's no way that 50 calories from an apple equals 50 calories from pizza. There's no way that that's equivalent, right? Yeah. So we'll come away from that. And then also that will bring us away from that place of restricting our caloric intake. But instead, maybe we want to look at our hormones. So insulin is that hormone that is responsible for storing glycogen, right? When we eat foods that are high in carbohydrates and protein, and to some extent fat, we release insulin from the pancreas, and insulin's job is to collect that blood sugar and bring it to the muscles to store, and then bring it to the livers also for storage and convert it into glycogen. The muscles only have a certain capacity at which they can store glycogen, the liver a little bit more. Everything else that's excess would be converted into fat and stored in the fat cells. Now, while insulin is doing its job of storage, the other thing it's doing is suppressing fat oxidation. So if my body's in storage mode right now and it's storing calories and it's storing energy, well, it's also preventing energy from being released, right? So our body's either in storage mode or utilization mode. Every time I spike insulin, I'm in storage mode. And every time my insulin is down, then I'm in utilization mode. So how can I get myself away from that storage mode and really tap into that utilization mode? And so the first thing is to control the release of insulin. The more insulin there is in the body, the more that storage mode is happening. So I can control insulin release by eating whole foods, right? Again, coming back to eating something refined, something processed. Well, when something is processed, it's been stripped away from a lot of its stuff. When that low-fat diet was really popular 20 years ago, that's processed food. The foods that we were eating was stripped away from fat, stripped away from fiber, stripped away from a lot of things. And when we ate that food, we didn't have satisfaction. Even though we were maybe staying on that caloric budget properly, we were still not feeling satisfied. So it actually led us to want to eat more. And when you remove fat, well, you have to make that product taste good. So most commonly, you have to add sugar. That's where now more sugars started getting introduced into our diet. And now sugars are what caused that spike in insulin, right? And so just learning how the body works and realizing that I don't need to really restrict in order for me to release weight, but what I instead need to do is get into that place of utilization. So I want to make sure that the foods I'm eating have a low glycemic index, which means they don't stimulate such a high insulin release. I also maybe want to have periods of my day where I'm not eating, right? If every time I eat, I'm releasing insulin, well, what if I just maybe stop eating for a little bit? We were designed to fast. We were designed to go through periods without eating because we've evolved from a hunter-gatherer sort of upbringing, right? And sort of environment where we had to search for food while we were hungry, where we had to actually get our food, and we didn't have fridges and we didn't have pantries and we didn't have a grocery store that had mango all year long, right? But instead, we had to learn how to utilize our body, and we have that machinery, we have that capacity and the hormones to be able to rely on our stored fats. And intermittent fasting, the minimum window that we see benefit from is 12 hours, right? So imagine we stop eating at 6 p.m. and then the next morning we start eating again at 6 a.m., right? It's not that hard to do, right? But that's enough to really start to control that insulin release from the body.
Oh, that's dynamic. That is so much good, applicable information. I love it. We have a viewer here, Hilton Moore. He says, great information in the show today, Liz. There's also benefits gained from eating your D vitamins, zinc vitamins, potassium, and C vitamins to combat coronavirus. All strengthens the immune system against it. Sherry is correct that the gut is where it all begins for body defense. All the best to you and Sherry. So thank you so much for watching, Hilton. Yes, yes. All right. Now the video that I have, and I would like to go ahead and play, which is located on your website, sherryshaban.com. It is going to talk more about your, like I was mentioning, a 28-day meal plan, the 20-minute workouts, and your transformational journey. Can you tell us a little bit about how did you design your program? How long did it take you to come up with this program?
So when I first started my career and started working with people, I would share a meal plan with them. I would give them workouts and it would kind of start there. And I just didn't get it. I thought this was a great meal plan. Like, how are you not seeing results? Or I thought this was a great, fun training program. Why aren't you sticking to it, right? And so just from having sort of that experience and understanding that there's a missing link, there's something here that's missing. And that's the reason why a lot of people are not committing to their health and fitness. And so I want to say that I don't believe in laziness. I don't believe anybody is lazy. I believe that sometimes we are missing accountability. Sometimes our self-image is not reflective of what we are actually trying to create in our body. And sometimes also we don't have the right information. Maybe it's our social environment. We're in an environment where we're not actually being pushed or encouraged to create that transformation. So the missing element for me was really the mindset part. It's the accountability part. And so I would have to say it took me many, many years. I've been doing what I'm doing for over 20 years. And I will admit that I think it took me a good 15 years to realize that was it. It was really that reflection of identity and self-image that was the greatest component that many of us are missing.
Wow. All right, let's take a look at the video.
Hi, I'm Sherry Shaban. I'm so glad you're here. I know you're stuck, but it's not your fault. You see, in order for you to achieve your fitness goals, 3 things need to happen. Number 1, you have to have a sound meal plan. You have to have something with easy recipes and delicious food, and definitely a way to eat that is sustainable. You have to find a way to eat that becomes a part of your life and not just a temporary diet that you're going to go on and come off of. And that's what our program offers. We've got a 28-day meal plan with original recipes, with really delicious food. So simple, your whole entire family can help you make it. And the second thing you need to have is a good workout program. We're so busy. We don't have 2 hours every day to spend in the gym to get the results that we want. We need to have workouts that are efficient, that are fun, that are different all the time, that are actually giving us results. And that's what our program offers. The workouts are 20 minutes long. They're always varied and they're adapted to every single level, no matter which level you're at. Even if you're coming in with an injury, there's a modification for every exercise to help suit your level and to get you there. And finally, and the most important thing is you need accountability. It's hard to stay on track when you don't have a gym buddy or you don't have somebody motivating you and pushing you to do it. It's human nature. But that's why our program works. We have accountability coaches checking up on you, making sure that you are answering all your questions, that we're getting you there and making sure that you're staying on track and staying motivated. So you've made a great choice. Sign up below. You got this.
All right, Sherry, you got to tell us, how do we get started?
Well, I would love to start with a consultation. So for every single person, it's really working on the whole person. It's not working on the physical transformation or the goals or the results that they want. It's really working on all the different areas of our lives. So you can always get in touch with me, Sherry at sherryshaban.com or at Sherry Shaban Fitness on Instagram. And the first step is just to connect and to see if we are the right fit. I don't like to say this, but I kind of tend to not want to work with athletes. And I use the word athletes to refer to my clients. Athletes that want a quick transformation or want a transformation because there's a wedding coming up or they've got a trip planned and they're going to be wearing a bathing suit, but instead really athletes that are interested in that lifelong approach. And that's the difference between results and transformation. Results can be temporary. Results are focused on a particular outcome. If I have a goal to release 10 pounds, well, I will stop working the moment I release my 10 pounds because that was my goal, right? Whereas transformation is long-term, it's sustainable. It's a shift in identity. it's doing habits based on who I am and not because I want to release a certain amount of pounds. So if you're looking for a transformation that impacts the different areas of your life, including your relationships, including your sense of identity, any limiting beliefs, any habits you want to overcome, then transformation is something that I can help you with.
All right, the meal plans. So tell me, are the foods, and I already know the answer to this question, but I just want to put it out there. Are the foods and the items that you need to follow the meal plan hard to find?
No, all real stuff. No supplements. I do believe in supplements according to, I think, your previous question, Hilton, I think.
Yes.
And yes, supplements are a support to nutrition, but it's not a replacement for nutrition, right? So all using real food, more importantly, real food that you enjoy. If you can't stand eating broccoli, like, don't eat broccoli, right? There's nothing fun about that. This is not a punishment, right?
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that because that's so liberating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it gives people a view that, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can sustain this. I'm not buying boxes and boxes of food that show up and it's already, prepared and it's got preservatives in it and it looks like MREs, military foods, space foods that you chuck in the microwave and then you choke it down. Like that's not what this is at all. And I love what you just said. If you don't like broccoli, don't eat it. There are other things you can eat where you will get the same fiber, you will get the same nutrients from some other plants and vegetables that maybe you like better. Mm-hmm. I do have a question about the music that you listen to when you work out. So Michael is asking, do you listen to motivational speeches or music when you work out? If so, what music?
Oh, thank you for asking that, Michael. So I'm a big podcast girl. I'm really obsessed with learning and growing. So I'm constantly reading books, audio listening to books. And so when I'm out doing my walk, that's what I'm listening to. When I am out for a run, that's what I'm listening to. A lot of times when I'm working out, that's what I listen to. Otherwise, I would listen to something very spunky and happy. I find that music is energy and it impacts our mood. So if I am listening to heavy metal and a lot of yelling, I get angry and agitated, right? So I tend to listen to happy things. I love Prodigy. I love Daft Punk. And when I grew up, I used to listen to alternative music, a lot of Pearl Jam, a lot of Soundgarden. And as I grew up and matured into more of an adult mindset, I realized that this music is really sad. And so I had a hard time to continue to listen to that type of music. But to answer your question, just music that makes me feel excited and pumped and joyful.
I love that. I do the same. Mm-hmm. It's always got to be music in my ears. There are a few times where I showed up to the gym and I'm like, oh, I forgot my earbuds. I forgot. And it has such a huge impact on my workout, at least. It's like I get into it and then I'm like, I'm missing something. Oh, yeah, I'm listening to the music. And it's like not doing it for me. So before we close out the show, I want to ask a little bit of a personal question. How are you today with your spinal health?
So I've come to a place where I sort of now know where my limits are. And again, it's taking me some time to get to this place, but I was only able to get to this place by accepting that there were certain things I just had to give up. And so I don't load my spine very much. I'll do back squats, but I try to stay very light. So I really try to stay somewhere where it's about 70% of my body weight, which, Elizabeth, as you know, it's not a lot of weight when you're, really sort of staying there. So, but I'm okay with that. I've come to terms with that. I'm very at peace with that. And instead, I started to really focus on other things that wouldn't stress my back. So I started doing Muay Thai, martial arts. Again, nothing that loads my spine. I'm very mindful of creating a lot of impact also. So I limit my running, anything that really requires a lot of impact during the week. And then I've taken up yoga. And the way that I've learned yoga, I am a yoga teacher. I have a yoga teacher certification. And the way that I've learned yoga was really around muscle activation and not stretching. So I've found over the years that not stretching has really helped my back more. So I used to stretch my back. I used to stretch my piriformis, and I've stopped stretching completely and instead really worked on muscle activation. And that's made the biggest difference. Every now and then my back will act out. It is what it is. I embrace it during those times. I might, work on meditation a little bit. I do notice though that if I don't move, that's when I experience the most amount of pain. So it's sort of a mandate that I have. I have to move every single day, whether that's a walk, whether that's a workout. When I move, I feel better. When I do experience back pain, I really need to move without stressing my back, without stressing my body. I just need to move. And of course, the other big thing is food. We spoke about gut health earlier and inflammation. Well, inflammation is not just local, it's systemic. So if I have inflammation in my gut, well, guess what? My back will act out even more. So I'm very mindful of that. I notice if I have sugar, if I have gluten, I feel my back. So it's sort of monitoring these things. I'm in a place really, Elizabeth, where I experience the back pain, but I don't let that become my defining sort of moment, right? It's, let me see what else I can do. Let me try to find something else that serves me today and not have that be that thing that's restricting me.
Yes, absolutely. I have Michael Schwartz. He just commented, he said, I love that Sherry says transform and does not say the word diet. I stay away from anything that has the word diet attached to it. She is a very positive person. You absolutely are. And there again, you've said so many things throughout this podcast where I said, oh my gosh, I love what you said. I'm going to say it again. Oh my gosh, I love what you said, because you cracked the shell on that egg for any of us out there where we have had major issues, joint and skeletal issues, and the doctors have said, you're this close to never being able to walk again. You're 5 years away from living your life in a wheelchair. Your life expectancy is about 30 years less than what you're probably expecting. Those things are so heavy to hear that for me personally, it feels like it just builds that bubble around you. And then I feel like the bubble boy, right? Where it's like, well, I can't rush and deadlift. I can't ever touch a weight again. I can't. And you are breaking the mold on the I can'ts, because you can. You just have to listen to your body and build yourself 360. And I love that. Yes, you're talking about CrossFit and you're talking about body weight exercises and added weight exercises and yoga, but meditation. I mean, you have within the fitness world, the self-care meeting the true hardcore fitness and merging it together. And it's absolutely brilliant. So congratulations on what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. That means a lot coming from you. And, I just want to say that whatever we focus on becomes our truth. Right? If I'm focused on my limitations, well, that's all I'm going to think about is my limitations. And I'm going to remind my body that those are my limitations, and I'm going to experience pain based on those limitations. But I don't believe that anybody, and I say this with utmost respect because both my parents were doctors and my brother's a doctor, and absolutely, and thanks to doctors and my 2 back surgeries, I am who I am today. I just don't believe that anybody has a right to tell you what you cannot do. And if we focus on what we can't do, well, that will all be true, And when we're looking at these exercises, you mentioned a lot of exercise, Russian twists and all these things. If I focus on all the things that I can't do, well, that list is going to feel very long to me. But the reality is the things that I can do are way more than what I can't do. And now I got to be creative. And so that means maybe I got to step outside my little box of tools here that I'm using and look for other things. I started my path in yoga because of these limitations that I had. I started picking up martial arts because of these limitations that I had. So if anything, there's more out there that we can do that serves our body, and we have to redefine what that looks like. For me, health and fitness or working out does not just need to be in the gym and doing back squats and deadlifts. And if that was the way I thought about it and what I focused on, well, I would never have come out of there. In fact, I would have probably continued to re-injure my back. But instead, I came away from that. And there's we have to overcome the ego. Like that's really a big part of it too, is just being okay with it. It doesn't make me less fit. It doesn't make me less capable. And you started sort of the interview talking about, my physical appearance. And I'll say to you, it was never my goal. It was never my goal to have a six pack. It was never my goal to look a certain way, but it was my goal to move pain-free and to live a life that is pain-free and to step into that identity. So if you invite me to a barbecue, I probably, not probably, but I will not eat the hot dogs that you serve me, right? It's who I am. And that for me is non-negotiable, right? And the same thing with movement. For me, that's non-negotiable. Whether I'm traveling, whether I'm working, I will always find a way to move. And the more we fixate on how we can't do something, how I don't have the time to do something, how it's too difficult, how it would take so much energy, well, more of that will become our focus. But if we try to find a way and we start with this mindset of just becoming 1% better every day, my transformation is a lifelong journey. I don't have to do this in 6 weeks or in 28 days. And so if today I walk for 10 minutes, well, you know what? Every little thing that I do around my self-care goes into my health and fitness bank account. So never underestimate that 1 teaspoon of sugar that you've reduced in your coffee, because that has a massive impact. Walking 5,000 extra steps per day, that has a massive impact. Doing 20 squats every single day, that has a massive impact. A 4-minute workout, that's a Tabata, that's 8 rounds of 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest, that's an impact. And if I start to look at things like that and realize, okay, I'm just trying to accumulate things into that bank account, well, all those little things add up. And it's not this grueling journey that we feel is almost impossible to achieve.
You are very, very gifted in communicating what the real truths are behind this. You are extremely gifted, and I'm looking forward to working with you. So thank you so much for all the education. Thank you so much for all the love and the words that you've shared with all of our viewers today and the viewers of tomorrow. Sherry, I could sit here and gush and gush and gush. I just can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And I appreciate you inviting me on to your amazing show. And I'm excited to learn from you as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, have a wonderful weekend. And everybody, please go take a look at SherryShaban.com. It's up on the broadcast right now. And if you're listening only, it's www.SherryShaban.com. And you'll be able to begin your transformation immediately on SherryShaban.com. Well, thank you again. And I will see you very soon. You're a friend of the show. So anytime you have something to announce, anytime you'd like to come back on, you are more than welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, everybody, stay tuned for the news. I will be back with you at noon Eastern time today. We're going to talk about the financial report. I have a birthday shout out to a very special guy and more. So everybody, as always, we are blessed. You are blessed. And I love you. I will see you very soon.